Hi guys! Welcome back to another installment of our HSC Ancient History Revision series. Last video we went over how to smash section 1 of the exam. Within this video we'll be going through how to structure essays and extended responses. Why, you ask? Well, they're only part of literally every single section of the paper. Within every single section of your exam you'll come across at the very least an extended response, perhaps more. Within section 1, you have the 10-mark extended response on investigating, reconstructing and preserving the past, the one that we went over in our last video. In section 2, you have the 15-mark extended response on what evidence reveals about insert syllabus dot point here. You will always be given the source to integrate throughout your response, and as the question is literally on evidence, it's imperative that you support your argument with a range of just that. Section 3 is very special because it also features not only one, but two extended responses. The first, part A, being a 10-mark descriptive response, and part B, a 15-mark analytical. And finally, within section 4, you have the heavyweight of the exam, the 25-mark historical period essay. If you calculate it all up, 75 marks come from extended responses and essay questions. Therefore, it is imperative that your essay writing skills are strong. The big difference between the short answers and the extended responses isn't just the difference in length and detail, but structure. A lot of students understand the content and can even make a sophisticated judgment on it. However, their structure is poor and holding them back from getting these top marks. How many of you have received one of these comments from your teacher on an essay before? Thesis not clear, not enough detail, too narrative, not answering the question, too descriptive, or source? A lot of you, I'm assuming, as these tend to be the most common mistakes ancient history students make within their responses. So today, we'll be going through the basics of how to structure an ancient history essay, while also dealing with how to fix some of these most common mistakes made within responses. First things first, it's important to note that unlike junior English may have you believe, there are actually multiple ways to structure an ancient history essay. The general structure remains the same: introduction, body paragraphs, conclusion. However, the actual content of each paragraph could be completely different, even when written for the same question, and still be entirely valid. The most common types of essays written within ancient history are thematic, factors, and syllabus essays. I'll go through each type with you, so that you can make a more educated decision as to which response type you believe will work best for you. Certain structures work better for certain question types, and some structures also work better for certain types of learners, so it'll definitely give you an edge to have a good understanding of what is on offer. First off, thematic essays. Thematic essays are structured according to social themes, such as society, politics, economics, culture, and the military, whereby each paragraph is centered around a particular theme. They are often considered the harder essay of the three, as they frequently require more critical thinking and the extrapolating of ideas and issues related to a particular topic. Along with this, they often require discussing events out of chronological order, which some people find confusing. However, when done right, thematic essays present themselves as highly sophisticated and involve a highly adaptable structure that can work for most essay questions. A thematic essay is the best choice when discussing overall impact, as it can easily accommodate for the scope of a time frame without needing an in-depth description of all the various events and issues that took place within it, only those whose impact in relation to one of the themes is being assessed. Therefore, a question that presents itself as more broad greatly suits a thematic structure, whereas questions that centered around a particular factor, well, it might be easier to write a factors essay. Factors essays are ones that place a particular emphasis on the key historical events or personalities of the period, with a paragraph devoted to each one. These essays are often considered easier, as they require less extrapolating of themes and instead just basic cause and effect. A key event wouldn't be considered a key event if it didn't in some capacity contribute to change and transformation, and the way in which an event impacted upon a particular issue is usually very clear and well documented. Whereas sometimes with thematic essays it can be less obvious because results discussed within those types of essays are usually based on a variety of combined factors rather than just one single event. However, if you are someone who struggles with detail at the best of times, you might find this essay to be particularly tricky because you need a lot of it. If you're going to devote an entire paragraph to a single event, then you better know that event back to front and be able to confidently and with extensive detail describe what happened, who was involved, and the subsequent short-term and long-term results. Along with this, unlike within a thematic essay where each paragraph is devoted to a theme, within a factors essay you often need to discuss multiple themes in one paragraph, relating them back to your chosen event. As stated earlier, factors essays are perfect for questions that place particular focus upon a specific factor or event, as are syllabus essays. Syllabus essays are structured according to You guessed it, the syllabus. Each paragraph is centered around a particular syllabus dot point, which makes it a really simple and easy structure to understand and write. This is the basic, though by no means less sophisticated structure, and if you're ever struggling in an exam to work out which type of essay to use, just go with this one, as you should basically have a pre-made essay plan ready in your head. By the nature of the HSC, NISA cannot give you a question that strays off the syllabus. Sometimes it may appear as though they have, but that is usually just difficult or purposely confusing wording. Therefore, if you use this structure, you are guaranteeing that at the very least some, if not all of your essay, is relevant to the topic in question. Another massive plus for syllabus essays is that they are playing to the marker, particularly if your marker is one that isn't necessarily an expert on your topic. At the marking centre, what they will have in front of them while they mark your response is the syllabus, which they will be ticking off through your essay to make sure that you have hit all the key points. With a syllabus essay, you're just making it easy for them, as it means they don't have to sit there and work out if you've answered the question. Syllabus essays are often very similar, if not the same as a factors essay, as a common structure for a syllabus is by the key events and factors. Therefore, many of the benefits of a factors essay, such as suiting more specific question types, are also present for a syllabus essay. However, also some of the dangers. If your knowledge on a particular syllabus dot point is lacking, that can really bring down your response. Therefore, if you plan to use this structure, you need to make sure that all of your content revision is tight. Some people have one way they do all their essays, others vary depending upon the question. In the end, it all comes down to what you are the most comfortable with. Your choice of essay structure should not be a point of differentiation at the marking centre, and you will not be discriminated against for using a particular structure over the other, no matter if it's considered the easy type or not. They are all completely valid structures and can all be used to attain a Band 6 mark. However, the type of essay you choose doesn't even matter if the way you present it on paper is a mess. So let's go through how to actually structure a response. First off, introductions. To be honest, your introduction is probably the most important part of your essay. Not only does it set the tone of your response, but my teacher used to say that a mark was often already determined by an intro. Remember that your first sentence must be a judgment. By doing this, you are, from the get-go, setting yourself up to writing an analytical essay as opposed to a narrative, as now you have set the precedent for yourself that you will be justifying your judgment throughout your response. But how do you actually formulate one? Let's play a game. I'm going to show you 3 theses to the question, to what extent was Claudius an effective princeps during the Julio-Claudian period? Don't worry if you didn't study the Julio-Claudians as your historical period study, as this will still be relevant to you. Now I want you to tell me which thesis you think is the best. Ready? Number 1. Claudius was a highly effective princeps during the Julio-Claudian period. Number 2. Claudius was the 3rd Julio-Claudian princeps gaining power after the assassination of his nephew Gaius, through which he enacted considerable and significant political, social, and economic reform. And number 3. Claudius was undoubtedly effective as princeps, particularly in his comparison to the other Julio-Claudian emperors. Which one do you think is the best? Pause the video and have a go. Got your answer? Was it this? When it comes to developing a thesis, it is important that you keep it simple, for your sake and the markers. A lot of people think that sophisticated equals complicated, but that's just not true. The more complicated your thesis is, the more difficult it is for the marker to understand your judgment, and for you to sustain it without switching judgments throughout your response or getting confused. All your thesis should do is answer the question in its purest form. Your argument and the historical detail used to support it is what will make your judgments shine, not the extensiveness of your vocabulary. This isn't English. It needs to be strong and assertive, but you can still have nuance. Just leave that to your arguments, not your thesis. Another thing that's important to remember when developing a thesis is to pay attention to the verb and phrasing at the beginning. For example, if the question says to what extent, you need to make a judgment upon to what extent something is true, not whether or not it is true. Therefore, clear and strong language, such as highly and limited, is essential in order to get the top marks. Then you need to provide a 2 to 3 sentence explanation of your judgment. All this does is provide a clear and brief outline of the context of your judgment and why you have reached that judgment. Remember that brevity is key. Don't delve too much into the backstory of your essay, just provide enough detail that it is clear what you are discussing. Then outline your essay in about 1 sentence. So list what each paragraph is going to be about. This is where you make it clear what type of essay you'll be writing. And finally, you need to restate your thesis, reminding your marker of the stance you'll be arguing throughout your essay and solidifying in their mind that you'll be answering the question. Here is a sample introduction that I wrote to the question, evaluate the influence of the Senate during the Julio-Claudian period. Now we're on to the paragraphs, or the meat of your essay. So, like the introduction, your first sentence must be a judgment. However, in this case, it's a judgment upon the thesis and the focus of your paragraph. Your judgment must support your initial thesis from your introduction, so make sure to use similar language to your initial thesis so as not to confuse lazy markers. Then you need to explain your judgment in about 1 to 2 sentences. This is essentially an outline of your argument for that particular paragraph, so keep it simple and clear. The detail is for the next part. Further explanation with examples. So here you need to explain and justify your judgment using historical examples to back up and solidify your argument. Detail, detail, detail. It is so important in this section, so be specific about events and issues to demonstrate the depth of your understanding. Now, detail can and should also include integrating historians and other sources. However, it is important that you do this effectively. Not only should you make sure that you are integrating a variety of sources, don't just rely on ancient historians, make sure you include modern historians and archaeological sources as well, but you need to make sure that the historians don't overpower or take over your judgment. Don't just provide a shopping list of historians' quotes and think that suffices an essay. At the end of the day, you are getting marked on how well you can formulate an argument, not how well you can parrot a historian. Therefore, make sure that you only ever use historians to back up your own opinion rather than to form the basis of your argument. Finally, you need to link back to your judgment, so re-outline the argument that you used to prove your judgment and then restate your thesis. Simple as, right? Here is a paragraph that I wrote for the question, evaluate the influence of the Senate during the Julio-Claudian period. And finally, the conclusion. Again, students really underestimate the importance of a conclusion. You actually cannot get a Band 6 without one, as that would make it an unfinished essay. That is why if you are running out of ideas in an exam, it's actually a better idea to scrimp on your paragraphs rather than neglecting to include a conclusion. What's great about conclusions, however, is that they are super simple. Just write your introduction backwards. Seriously, that's really all you need to do. Just swap around the outline of your essay and the thesis restated and you're totally sweet. Want proof? Here is a conclusion that I wrote to the question, evaluate the influence of the Senate during the Julio-Claudian period. And there we have it. Video 2 done and dusted. Remember that if you ever need any more help in the coming few weeks, myself and many others are always available on atarnotes.com to help you out. Have any questions? Content related or otherwise, feel free to pop them onto the forum, and I guarantee someone will have a highly detailed response for you ASAP. And the best part? It's all completely for free. Thank you again for watching, and I hope to see you back in our final video where we'll be going over the best study techniques and tricks to make sure that you are 100% prepared for that exam coming October. Bye!